Historium to go through is right there, and the aquarium right ahead of us where you see the blue and white awning. This is the cruise. This is a cruise ship tour. This is not a regular tour. Yes, yeah. This is a private tour.
Hey, Jack here. Do you want the truth? Can you handle the truth?
You can handle
it. Ain't this grand? We're on the ride of our lives, man. Listen, you better stay in your seats. And hey, no smoking or booze on this ride. This ain't the 60s, you know. And listen, try to keep your arms, legs, and the rest of your body parts inside at all times. You might want to keep an eye out for low-hanging branches. You wouldn't want to get slapped by one now, would you? Get a cuckoo's nest right on your head.
Now, the aquarium here on the right was actually the world's first open-air aquarium. Back when it was built, back in 1934, it just a really, really amazing place to be able to walk up in there and, of course, not have a roof over the top of it. It's the first open-air aquarium, the first tourist attraction in Key West, and today it's one of the few places in the world where you can actually pet a live shark. The brick building to our right we call number 1. That was the first masonry structure ever built on the old Navy base. That was back in 1852. The bottom floor was a coaling depot for the Navy steamships. The top floor was a sailmaker's hall. Now, beautiful, beautiful red brick building off to the right. That's our customs house from 1891. And notice those wonderful sloped roofs on that building. Those are federally mandated snow roofs here in Key West. The only frost-free city in the continental U.S. Thomas Edison actually worked on depth charges for the U.S. Navy out of that building years ago, too. The tan stone building on the right, says Mel Fisher, is the old customs warehouse. Back in the days of the shipwrecks, they would bring the salvage from the wrecked ships into that building, and then on Saturdays they would auction everything off. Now today the main exhibit in the building is of the Spanish galleon, the Atocha. The value of that exhibit is well over $400 million. These are the presidential gates on the right. They've only been open for Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy, Carter, and Clinton. The little White House is about 100 yards back up to the right, open daily for tours. Anybody remember Pan American Airlines? This white building with the blue shutters on the right is where they started business. That was their very first office. Up next on the right is a great museum called Heritage House, but the important thing is there's a little cottage up this brick lane in front of that green Jeep. That's the Robert Frost Cottage. Now, the great poet actually spent 16 consecutive winters up in that little cottage. So now you know where he actually wrote the majority of his poetry. So the next time you're all bundled up, feeling warm and cozy, reading about the snow, the hills of Vermont, the road less traveled, now you know the real secret to the man's success. It was the fact that he was wearing a t-shirt and a pair of short pants, sipping on a margarita here in Key West. It's home to the right. It was originally the home of Dr. Joseph Gates Porter. Dr. Porter was actually the very first public health official in Florida. He's the guy that did all the research into yellow fever, and of course his work actually led to the quarantine laws that eventually helped to eradicate the disease here in the U.S. Now the next place is going to hide from us for just a second. You're on the left up in the trees, but when it comes into view, does it ever come into view? You'll see it's a beautiful home. It's called the Curry Mansion. Captain William Curry arrived in Key West from the Bahamas back in 1847. He actually became the first millionaire in Florida. When we get to the traffic light across the street on the left, you'll see the Cypress House. As we go around the island, you're going to notice quite a few unpainted homes. Today they're unpainted out of respect for history, but there was once a legitimate reason for having an unpainted house on Key West. The old property tax laws had a loophole. The tax assessor couldn't assess taxes until the home was completed. Having it painted was the last thing in the completion column. So they would simply make the homes out of cypress or cedar, even Dade County pine. Leave them totally untreated, and of course never paid a penny of property taxes. This is our federal building from 1931, but it's made of fossilized coral that was quarried right here in the Florida Keys. So most unusual building material. We're on Caroline Street. Not that many many years ago, this was the main street of Key West. That was back in the sailors' days. When the sailors would come to town and start to mix it up with the shrimpers, well, the fights would be breaking out all up and down the street. This was a rough and tumble neighborhood to visit. You had to be pretty serious if you're going to come down to Caroline Street. But the toughest place of them all back in those days was the bar. Coming up on the far right corner, this two-story building was all trimmed in red. It was called the Red Doors Tavern, and its nickname was the Bucket of Blood. Now, they actually did a weapons check right there at the front door. I mean, they had to. If you showed up to that bar and you did not bring a weapon, they gave you one so you could come inside. True. Beautiful mural here on the right on these two walls of the market. It was originally painted back in 1993 by the artist Weiland. It was touched up 10 years later with the help of a Florida wildlife artist named Guy Harvey. Now, Weiland's on a mission, and he's determined to paint 100 of those murals around the world. He's already completed 95 of them. Number 100 is scheduled to be a 2-mile stretch on the Great Wall of China later this year. That's to commemorate the Olympics being held over there. This is Schoonerwharf Bar on the right, always known as the last little piece of old Key West. It's just a great place to sit down, relax, and just let some time slip by. Charles Kuralt of CBS News calls it the center of the universe. National Geographic calls it one of the 10 best bars in the world. But if you're looking for a happy hour, I'm going to have to disappoint you this morning. You see, we've missed the first happy hour of the day. That was at 7 a.m. this morning. That's the Breakfast Club. Oh, look, you can't drink all day unless you start early in the morning. Any Jimmy Buffett fans?
Yes!
This white building on our right is the recording studio where Buffett originally recorded all of his albums. That's it. Today it's called Shrimp Boat Sound Recording Studio. Of course, the difference between all those years long gone and today is that today, Jimmy Buffett owns the recording studio. Off to the right, about 40 yards, is a gray metal building. It's called the Conch Republic Seafood Company today, but it was actually the world's largest ice plant back in the 1960s, back then called Singleton's Ice Plant and Fish House. And they actually filmed most of the scenes of the James Bond movie, License to Kill, right under that building there. But if you look to the left, out in front of the store there you see the world-famous Kermit, the great baker of key lime pies. Say hello to Kermit. Green Street and Elizabeth, if you're looking for a great key lime pie. This is Green Street that we're on. This red brick building coming up on the left, kind of bleached out on the side, was actually a tobacco warehouse for Captain William Curry back in the 1870s. This is one of the very few buildings that survived the Great Fire of Key West in the 1886 fire. And its main tenant today is the folks on the end, the handprint fashion shop. So if you're looking for the line of clothes that's called Key West Camouflage, that's where you'll find it. It's right there in that building on our left. This is going to be stop number 3. This is Sloppy Joe's Bar at Pirates Old Museum. Anybody for number 3? Nobody for 3? Anybody, Tara? Yeah, that's what it is. This is, you see the red brick building on the top there? This is the old City Hall. The date's from 1891.